The skies above northwest Syria are filled with the roar of warplanes, a constant reminder of the ongoing conflict. Russian and Syrian jets have intensified their bombing campaign in the region, launching numerous sorties each day. Their targets are towns and villages held by rebel forces. These airstrikes are relentless, with explosions shaking the ground and buildings crumbling into dust. The bombings are concentrated in Idlib and Aleppo provinces, areas that have been under siege for years. These areas have seen heavy fighting in recent weeks, with both sides suffering significant casualties. Rebels have been battling government forces for control, engaging in fierce combat. The Syrian government, backed by Russia, is determined to crush the rebellion and regain control of the region. They view the rebels as terrorists, a narrative they use to justify their actions. The airstrikes are taking a heavy toll on the infrastructure and the people. Civilians are bearing the brunt of the violence, with many injured or forced to flee their homes. Hospitals, schools, and markets have been hit, disrupting daily life and essential services. The world watches in horror as the humanitarian crisis deepens, with aid workers struggling to provide relief. The Syrian government, led by Bashar al-Assad, is determined to regain control of the entire country. They view the rebel-held areas in the northwest as a threat to their authority. Russia, a key ally of Assad, supports this objective. Recent rebel advances have alarmed the Syrian government and Russia. Rebel forces have made significant territorial gains. They have captured key towns and military bases. This has emboldened the opposition and weakened the government's position. The airstrikes are a response to these rebel gains. The goal is to push back the opposition and regain lost territory. The Syrian government and Russia claim they are targeting terrorists. However, evidence suggests that many civilians are being killed and injured. The people of northwest Syria are trapped in a living nightmare, facing unimaginable hardships every single day. The relentless airstrikes have turned their lives upside down, leaving them in a constant state of fear and uncertainty. Many have fled their homes in search of safety, often with nothing but the clothes on their backs. They are crammed into overcrowded camps, struggling to survive with limited resources and inadequate shelter. The bombing campaign has had a devastating impact on civilian infrastructure, leaving entire neighborhoods in ruins. Hospitals and medical facilities have been destroyed, depriving people of essential medical care. Schools have been reduced to rubble, denying children their right to education and a sense of normalcy. Water and sanitation systems have been damaged, making it difficult for civilians to access clean water and maintain hygiene. This has created a humanitarian catastrophe, with countless lives hanging in the balance. The United Nations estimates that over 900,000 people have been displaced by the fighting in northwest Syria since December 2019, a staggering number that continues to grow. The UN has warned of a humanitarian disaster if the violence does not stop, urging immediate action to protect civilians. But the bombs keep falling, and the suffering continues unabated. International condemnation and calls for restraint. The international community has condemned the escalating violence in northwest Syria. The United Nations has called for an immediate ceasefire. Western governments have urged Russia and Syria to stop the bombing. The UN Security Council has been divided on how to address the crisis. Russia, a permanent member of the Council, has vetoed several resolutions aimed at halting the violence. The United States and its allies have accused Russia of enabling Assad's atrocities. Despite the international outcry, the airstrikes continue. The Syrian government and Russia seem determined to pursue a military solution. This leaves the people of northwest Syria with little hope for peace. The Syrian conflict, a protracted humanitarian crisis. The escalating violence in northwest Syria is a grim reminder of the Syrian civil war, which has raged for over a decade, leaving a trail of devastation and despair in its wake. The conflict has killed hundreds of thousands of people and displaced millions more, creating a humanitarian catastrophe of unprecedented scale. It is one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time, with countless families torn apart and communities shattered. The war began in 2011 with peaceful protests against the Assad regime as citizens demanded democratic reforms and greater freedoms. The government responded with brutal force, sparking a civil war that has since engulfed the nation in relentless violence. The conflict has drawn in regional and international powers, turning Syria into a battleground for proxy wars, with various factions vying for control. The Syrian people have paid the heaviest price for this conflict. enduring years of hardship and loss. They have endured unimaginable suffering, loss, and displacement, with many forced to flee their homes in search of safety. The international community has a moral obligation to help end the violence and alleviate their suffering, providing aid and support to those in need. But until then, the bombs will continue to fall, and the people of Syria will continue to suffer, caught in the crossfire of a seemingly endless war. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos.